Hello friends, so it's been a while since I talked about Halo on this channel, and what do you know, today is one of those days. I wanted to talk about specifically a companion app that I built for myself that's also available as an open source project because I got really annoyed with the existing stack of statistics tools that are available for me to browse Halo match performance. So I'm going to switch here directly to my demo. So I'm just going to go to my screen and we're going to walk through the process of how to actually get this tool and install it from scratch. So what I want to do here is open your web browser of choice and go to OpenSpartan.com. That's kind of it. You start with OpenSpartan.com. You can click on Engage Slipspace Drive because I'm a nerd like that. And from here, there's all the documentation that tells you everything you need to know on how to set this tool up, from logging in to browsing all the stats. But that's kind of irrelevant for this step. So what I'm going to do is just download the latest version. And what this does is it will download it from GitHub because that's where it's actually stored. So if you look at the URL here, it's just GitHub. It pulls a GitHub release. So for me to actually get it out of GitHub, you can also go to github.com/OpenSpartan/OpenSpartan-workshop. So you can go here and you can browse exactly what the source code is of this tool. And you can even look at the releases. And what you see on OpenSpartan.com is just a shortcut to this installer bundle. So I'm going to click download latest version. Latest version just happens to be 1.06. So I'm gonna click on this here and I'm gonna minimize my browser window. And by the way, if you get a warning like this, you can take my word for it that this application is safe and you can just run it anyway. If not, you can download the source and try to build it yourself with a caveat that you will not have access to one of the libraries that is needed for it, but I'm gonna run it anyway. And also the code that I'm showing you, by the way, it's running in a VM. So it's a clean slate. You'll see it from scratch. So I click on sure, I agree to the license terms, and I click on install, and I once again say yes because let's continue with the process. So it's gonna install the tool, it's gonna install the .NET Windows Desktop runtime that is required to run it, and once I see the installation process complete, you'll be able to run it just like any other Windows app. So by the way, this tool is available for Windows only today, with plans for expanding to other platforms in the future. But for now, it's just Windows. It's a Windows installer. So let's close this. You'll see the shortcut added to your desktop. So you can just double click that. And once you double click, the application should launch and you'll get a prompt to log in. And when you log in here, by the way, this is logging in with what's known as the Web Account Manager or the Windows Authentication Broker. And I'll put in some links in the description if you want to learn more about the inner workings of why a broker is a good thing here. But this will connect to the Live ID or the Microsoft account or the Hotmail account that you've connected to Windows. So if you're running on a Windows machine with your Outlook.com email already connected, that should just pick it up and you'll be able to select it. So in my case, I'm going to log in with my credentials right now.
A few minutes later.
And so once the authentication process completes, you will see that the app will load into the kind of the default state. And this is where you see the overview of the kind of the career, if you will, for your Halo Infinite. By the way, I should mention, this is just for Halo Infinite. This does not track MCC or Halo 3 or Halo 5, none of those. This is literally just for Halo Infinite. So looking at the screen here, you'll see that there is a whole bunch of information here that is at a glance something that I wanted for myself, and I found that's very convenient for other people. So you'll see the kind of the rank adornment, the icon for your career rank here at the very top. You'll also see that my kind of gamer card, if you will, the Spartan ID is here with all the backdrop and the actual background for my logo that I have, which is the Nerf Needler. I have my, of course, service tag and so on. Now I have kind of the overview for my career. So if I look here and I'm gonna look at one of the core pieces, which is how far along I am for the current level. And that is extremely helpful if you are looking at progressing to the hero rank. So if you are one of those people that just cares at getting to hero as fast as possible, that's your avenue to actually checking how far along you are. And it shows you the overall career progression in this one little progress ring here. So you can very easily look at how that should be working because you'll be able to very easily track the exact percentage. It doesn't actually show you the experience here, but lucky you, it does show it to you in this next little box that tells you how much you've earned to date, how much you still have to go. It doesn't contain yet information such as how long is it going to actually take you based on existing projections, but that's for a future version of this application. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is the matches view. So once you first start the application, it takes a little bit to populate the database with all the matches you have played. And I'll explain what's happening here. So when you play any match on the service side, it registers the match data. So you get the performance information, you get the player list, and so on and so forth. So there's quite a bit of data captured. And what OpenSpartan Workshop does is once you first start the application, it goes through every single match in your history and downloads them locally in a database. So what that allows me to do later is to very quickly query the data from the database and show you the insights that you want, or that I want, because I built the tool primarily for myself first, in one consolidated view. So when I want to look at specific matches where, for example, I've earned a medal, or matches where I have interacted with a specific player, I don't need to look far. I don't need to actually go and start querying the API because the API does not have the capability. But because my matches are stored in a local SQLite database, I can do this myself. So it's going to take a while, and we'll see that this process can take anywhere between 10 minutes to maybe half an hour to an hour if you've played thousands of matches. So we'll wait a little bit and see what happens.
1 hour later.
So matches finally loaded, and I can very clearly see what they are in my table here. I am going to maximize this so it's easier for us to actually analyze the data. So let's put it full screen. So I get the match end time. That gives me a very quick reference point. If I want to look back on matches that I've played, let's say yesterday at 7 p.m., I can look at the table and find that match. I see the match ID, and this is because, as I called out, I do query them in the database from time to time manually, and for that, it makes it so much easier for me to just find it by match GUID, that identifier, instead of me looking for specific criteria. The match outcome, so if I won, lost, tie, or did not finish, which there's quite a few of them in this table here. Team MMR, the multiplayer rank, that's the important to me piece, because I look at the MMR of the team I played against and the team I'm playing with right now. So this gives me an idea of the team I played with. So this is the team I was on, but it's a good reference point for the team I played against as well, because then when I look at the database, I can see what the delta between our values were. So the duration of the match, very, again, self-explanatory. I can see how long the match lasted, number of kills, and expected kills. And here I have the small little icon that tells me at a glance, again, if I overperformed, underperformed, or met the expectations of the game. Same for deaths. So again, deaths and expected deaths. The rank, that is out of all the players across all teams that were in the game, where I stacked up on a leaderboard. So again, very, very easy to see if you're progressing as you're playing more. Like, are you getting better? Are you top of the leaderboard or are you not? And especially if you're looking at matches of a specific type. The other piece here that is interesting is the rank, and this is the ranked tier at the end of the match. If you are big on playing ranked matches, whether it's Arena or SWAT or any of those, this here is the column you should be looking for. And again, I love it for myself because it's very easy at a glance to see what the rank is at the end of the match, as well as the change in CSR. So if I got 15 and then my current CSR is 1204. I like ranked SWAT, and I guess I am worthy of a diamond rank on that. Fluctuates, by the way. It's not fixed, so it might reset next season. And then, of course, the metadata about the games that I've played. So things like the category, the map, and the playlist. And in this case, as I mentioned, it's all ranked tactical because I'm looking at tactical data. The important part here is that this is not all. So if I click on one of the matches, I get additional metadata displayed for it. So I can see things like, again, match ID, outcome, things that I already saw on a table, but also I can see the damage dealt and damage taken. I can see the number of rounds that I've played, number of objectives that I've done, the personal score, the KDA, things that are super interesting to see at a glance, especially after you've completed a match. So I don't need to start the game to see all that data and go through like the match history and analyze it or anything like that. And I don't need to go to any other website. It's all in the client app once my match is populated. Now, because it's a ranked match, I obviously see the match progression, and similarly, the way I see it in the game, I see my current rank that I landed on, the future rank, and how far along on a progress I am from that rank. Again, at a glance, this makes it much easier to estimate where I need to be. The other interesting part is tier counterfactuals. So within the API, there is the set of data points that tell you how a player at a given tier would have performed in this match. They're called counterfactuals. So in this case, I can see that if, for example, I got 12 kills, 3 deaths, and I want to look at the numbers that stack up against that. So I'll see that, for example, I kind of played I want to say like Onyx-ish, right? So that way I clearly did really well and I grew in rank, and because I also won the game, so there's not a lot of loss. But this gives you a reference point. So if you'd be a silver player, you'd have 1 kill and 10 deaths, and it gives you that estimate at a glance. And then the medals. So for every match, as you already know, if you're playing Halo or maybe you're just starting up, you're getting medals. And this tells you which medals you've earned, and it's sorted by the number of medals that you've earned in your entire kind of duration of the match. So you can easily see, oh, you got, 7 shot callers, great. And if you tap on one of those medals, you get a very quick description, the name ID, which allows you to query the data in a database later, and the ability to browse other matches where you've earned that medal. That's one of my favorite pieces too. And I built it again for myself because I see the medal and I'm like, well, I wonder how often do I earn it? And to get that data, I need to look at other matches. So if I click on shot caller here and I click on browse matches, it's gonna start another view. It's gonna query the local database and it's gonna find me every single match where I've ever earned that medal. So it gives you the medal description at the top, and then I can scroll through the list and find out all the Husky Raid matches and all the Tactical Slayers and so on and so forth. Makes it very, very easy, again, to kind of analyze your own data from this. And so this is available for both ranked and unranked matches. So if I see some like quick play here, I get the same medals because it's not a ranked match. I don't get my ranked metadata on it, but that's okay because I don't really need it. Next, I'm going to go to the medal view. That's the fun one as well because I love medals. I love counting medals. I love looking at medals after the match. And if I click on the medals tab here, I will get this HD view of every single medal that I've ever earned through my entire Halo Infinite career. So I can see them grouped by, well, the group that's defined in the game itself, so things like multi-kill, style, skill, proficiency spree, mode, and so on. And I can kind of scroll through them. And just like for any of the matches, for example, fastball, that's a rare medal. If I click on this, I can browse matches and find out what are the other matches where I've ever earned that medal. And when I look at this, you might see that sometimes there's some data discrepancy. So here I have 4 matches, I earned 4 medals, but sometimes you'll click on a match and you'll see that you might have earned like 10 medals, but it shows you 12 matches. It's usually because there's some custom games in the mix that don't log the medals, and that's a topic for another video. But medal view, very easy access to all the medals you've ever earned in the game. And now we're gonna look at one of the more interesting views, and that is for operations. So if you've played this before, you know that there is this concept of battle passes, right? Where you earn rewards at every level. So if I click on operations here, all the operations that have ever existed in the history of Halo Infinite are all right here. So if I click on Lone Wolves, I get the metadata for that particular operation. I can scroll through all the rewards. I can click on them to get metadata about them, which is great. And by the way, all of these, once they're populated, they're stored inside the database as well. So inside of my SQLite DB, it's all right there. And so I can scroll through them. Yeah, I can click around, and for all this yellow highlighting here, this is what I've actually earned. So you know at a glance the operations and battle passes where you've progressed and you've earned that particular reward. So again, at a glance, very easy to see. not only do I capture operations and battle passes, but also I look back at past events. So if you remember those time-bound, time-constrained, limited time promotions, if you will, if you click on one of those, you'll also see, similarly as you would for the battle pass, the metadata, which in general includes the time when that event happened. And you can click on any of the items that are listed here similar to get the metadata, and you can see the progression. So if I click on winter contingency, unfortunately, I did not finish that event, and that's okay. But so I don't have the full reward list, but I can still see what they are all about. If I just kind of click around and if I just select them, I can easily see what the description and what the title is. And if I click on any of the currency or the consumable items, I'll see the amount. Not the best UI right now, but I will improve it with time. The other piece that I've added recently with one of the more updated releases is support for the exchange. So recently, Halo Infinite introduced this concept of the exchange where you can use Spartan points, kind of in-game earnable currency that you can spend on items that you've missed out from previous events and, again, limited time promos. So if you go to the exchange view, you'll see exactly what's on sale on the exchange today. And you can click around, you can see the prices, you can see, what the item is actually about, like name and description. And soon I hope to add the ability to purchase the items directly from here with Spartan points for your account, depending on, well, how many Spartan points you have available. So stay tuned for that, but gives you, again, a very accessible way to check out what's in the exchange without having to launch the game, go to the store, and then see what's there. And then season calendar, it's a calendar view that allows you to see when specific battle pass or operation seasons reset. So for example, we're in Tenrai 4, and we'll see that it stops on July 2nd. And then we look at Banished Honor, the Yappening, Cyber Showdown, and all of this stuff is captured. As a bonus though, I also capture here the concept of CSR seasons, and this is the ranked season. That is when the rank for your ranked matches will reset, and you have to do the placement matches, the 5 matches that you usually have to do when the ranked season resets. So you can get it at a glance here if you look at the second bar that says CSR seasons, CSR season, and then the value. So that tells you when it's gonna reset. So I love the calendar view because I can visually tell when the season is gonna be over and when the new one will start. And then lastly, and probably again, for those of you who are more keen on the ranked gameplay, if you go to the ranked progression, you can see the available ranked playlist, the currently active ranked playlist, your placement in them. So this is the current rank, the season max, and the all-time max displayed in one view. And if you hover over it, you'll see the actual CSR values that you're at right now and how far along you are until you hit that next bar. So for example, on Ranked Tactical, I'm Diamond 1, Ranked Slayer, Plat 2, not that good. And then Ranked Arena, Plat 3, also right somewhere middle of the road. You can tell that I like playing Ranked Tactical. So this is kind of it for OpenSpartan Workshop. And if I look at settings as well, it gives you that familiar Windows style of customizations where you can also look at your user details, the application details. If you ever open a bug for me and you want me to investigate, you'll need this data here. You can enable or disable logging to make sure that you can track when things go wrong. And again, if you need to submit a bug, you need logging enabled and submit your logs. Using the authentication broker, if you do not want to connect your account to Windows, you can disable this and that the application will log in just with itself. Now, you might want to do this before the application starts, and you can do this by tweaking the actual settings file that will be documented on the OpenSpartan.com website, so you can go and check it out. Loose match search. So as you saw, it takes a while to load up all the matches at once. And if you've played, 6, 7, 10,000 matches, it might take a good hour for all that data to populate in a database. You probably don't want to do that. So once your match is populated once, you do need to do it at least once so the database gets kind of the snapshot of everything you've played. You can enable loose match search, and what that will do is it will query the API from Halo Infinite to get your match data, and it will only only stop once it hits a certain threshold of matches that it saw already exist in the database. So for example, if you set it to 4 or 5, I think by default I set the threshold to about 4 batches. Once it sees that 4 batches that it queried already exist in DB, it'll just stop and not query anything else. And that way you get quick and snappy match updates in the match table that we saw here. If I go back to matches, this is the list that you probably care about the most if you kind of scroll through it and see all the match data. And if you have a lot of them, you do not want to obviously spend too much time updating it and so on and so forth. So if I go back to settings here and I click on sync settings, this is the option where I want to make sure that settings, there's a baseline set of settings that are synced with the OpenSpartan Workshop service. And those are the settings that define how the client or OpenSpartan Workshop on your desktop actually behaves. And that enables you to ensure that, for example, when the background changes for the season, or when I update what is the default operation that I want to highlight, it needs to sync those settings. You can disable this, and that way, if you know what you're doing and you're familiar with the Halo Infinite API, you can specify things like the release, the build, the sandbox by yourself, and again, makes it a little bit more customizable and tweakable if things ever go wrong and you decide to say like, oh, you know what, the release has changed the latest retail build, I want to put something else here. You absolutely can, and it makes it so much more convenient to do so than me having to go and update the settings. That's OpenSpartan Workshop in a nutshell. It makes it, again, easier to look and analyze your data for Halo Infinite. I did mention the fact that all of this is captured inside a database. So if I click here on view files for data files, the data files section, this will open the folder where everything is stored. And what we're curious about is the data folder. So the data folder here contains the database that is named after the Xbox user ID, or the ZUID. And what you can do here is I'm going to copy the path to this, and I'm going to go to my desktop and I will launch DB browser for SQLite. And this is basically a tool that I can use to query the database, a SQLite database. In this case, the OpenSpartan Workshop database is a SQLite database. So I'm going to open one. I'm going to put the name based on the path, click on open, and then we'll instantly see the structure of the DB, the tables and the indices. And if I click on browse data, I'll again get the engine game variants that are captured in the database. I can look through all of them. I can look at the raw response for the API. So I'm gonna try to resize this a little bit. So you'll see there's a JSON here, right? That, like, as I would expect to get from API. And then some of the properties are extracted in their own columns for, again, make it easy to query and see what this is about. I can look at different match stats, which is another table that captures all the different matches that I've played along with the metadata for them. And I can, of course, run queries against this. And I can run any combination of these queries. So if I look at the database structure, you see a table that is interesting to you, and then you want to look at the contents of a specific column, you can again look at the data, familiarize yourself with what the content of the column is, and then run queries. So very easy, very streamlined, and solve my problem of actually being able to run queries on the data without hitting the API for every single data point that I want. Because if I want to find matches of a player that I've encountered before, I can do this from the database. If I ever want to find games where I earn a specific medal, I can do this from the database. I can do this from OpenSpartan Workshop. And even I can extract this data and then put it into, I don't know, Microsoft Excel and start rendering some charts on top of it. That can be done as well very, very easily because I have raw access to the data in my database for my own player after I aggregate it at least once. So this OpenSpartan Workshop, go check it out. Let me know what you think. You can go to OpenSpartan.com, get the latest version. And if there's any bugs, any issues, do open a GitHub issue and I'll make sure to address it. We'll talk soon.